What's up, guys? Live on all right. Got a little traction right now. A little traction. We're live on Insta and Facebook. All right, hey guys. So it's been a wild week, and I'm here to talk about it. I guess I'll start from the beginning, kind of give you guys a little insight on what happened and how I became homeless for 3 days, and the true situation behind it all. Also, yeah, we're going to talk about, if you want to talk about my sobriety, how I've done with that, and as far as losing weight. I'm here to address anything you guys want to talk about. Oh man, I got camera A and B. I can do like the and news at 9 o'clock. But might as well let's just get into it. Let's just talk. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Basically, guys, what happened was I started doing things. And I reached out, or a friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Man, I see you're doing things, and make sure you surround yourself with good people." And I thought about that for a little while, and then I realized that my living situation might not be the best, environment for me to start growing and doing things as an entertainer. And I could tell that, certain people wanted certain things to do with me, and I, to my own right, I kept my distance. Now, did that play into the fact on why things didn't work out with the housing there? I don't know. Who knows? But I noticed about 5 to 6 days before anything really happened that it was an actual effort to get me out of that house. And in hindsight, it looks like the effort might have started probably 2 or 3 weeks before. I just a little too naive, and just I didn't imagine that anybody would orchestrate something against me to get me out of their house. But ultimately what would happen is the female roommate would come out coughing. She would only cough in the living room, kitchen area. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it would definitely reverberate in my room. Never complained about it. And the other roommates, they interrupted an audition of mine, and that felt pretty intentional. Still didn't complain. I never really complained. I just kept to myself. Ultimately, it came down to, I think they were trying to get me to act out, and I wasn't going to act out. Those of you who know me, it's probably one of my biggest assets is not acting out. But when you don't act out, it hurts even worse. When people know that you're not going to act out, they try even harder to make you angry. They try even harder to make your heart hurt. And my heart hurt bad towards the end of this. So towards the end, about 3 days before April 1st, they started playing the music really loud in the living room area. They were still coughing in the living room area. And then eventually the female came to my room asking for a lighter. And I said no. This is how menial this was, okay? And she disappeared, and she came back about, 10 minutes later, accusing me of stealing these buckets, these little Tupperware buckets that she painted out of. Now, I make a clear point to keep to myself. I had my own mini fridge. I rarely even walked into the kitchen, and I definitely didn't touch anybody else's stuff. And so anyways, I said, "I don't have your stuff." She's like, "Yes, you do. I have 100 of them, blah, blah, blah." So she got me up and out of my room. I pulled out these to-go Tupperware boxes that I had from the Thai restaurant that's walking distance from the place we lived. And I said, here's the stuff I keep my trail mix in. If you want it, you can have it. I'm going to get some pad Thai tonight. And at this point, I was extremely rattled because I could tell there was something going on. And as soon as I explained that, she slammed my door to my room, and I opened the door and I said, "Would you please not slam my door?" That's fairly reasonable. And then in comes other roommate, right on cue. It was very, very timely. And I later actually said via text message to this guy, I said, I came out of my room to justify Tupperware, and next thing I knew, I was moving out May 1st. And he responded like, no, you didn't, you weren't, it wasn't to justify Tupperware. It was, I don't know, giving you a piece of yours. I don't know, something weird, but he basically admitted that this was like a setup. They set me up. So moving on from that, we decided that he walked in and he's like, I've noticed a change in your attitude. Do you want to move out May 1st? I was like, if it's going to be like this, yes, I want to move out May 1st. And, well, that gave me 3-4 days to look for housing. So I got on Craigslist, I got on PadMapper, I reached out on Facebook, I did everything I could, but nothing seemed to really pan out. And I didn't want to just jump into another lease right away and get bullied or find myself in the same situation that I was already in, minus another security deposit. So they started making it hard for me to park, and it just got worse. Things got incrementally worse the moment I said I wanted to move out, which is mind-blowing to me because I was already just keeping to myself, but that wasn't good enough, And then when I said I wanted out, they had to ramp it up. There's something about that, and it's not the first time it's happened to me in my life, So I basically I told the guy who I was technically renting from, I said, this is now a hostile living environment. I don't want to be a part of it. If it's got to be April 1st, let's go April 1st. This is not going to work. And he eventually sent me a message, said, yes, make it be out April 1st. I'll give you your last month's rent back. And it was set. Now, nothing panned out. I could see what was coming. And I had 13 days before I left for a wedding, going to a wedding in New Orleans. And I was like, I can rough it for 13 days rather than jump into a lease that's going to knock me back. I didn't think I was going to get the last month's rent back just by how squirrely the guy was acting. So that's a negative hit in the first place, not only to jump into a new lease to live there for 12 days and then find out that it's not a good fit. So the ultimate choice, my choice, was to go homeless and to document it all. It turned out to be an extremely awesome experience. The hardest part was finding a place to sleep safely, comfortably. In case you guys didn't see, when if you go back and see it, the first night I tried to sleep, a transvestite prostitute walked up on me, which was outrageous. But hey, you say it? Hey guys, say hey to AJ. AJ, the man who put a roof over my head right there. So, so that's basically how that happened. Now, what I didn't think about, and a lot of people didn't realize, this happened on April 1st, April Fool's Day. So, I'm posting things and I'm doing things and I'm seeing people laughing at them, and I didn't think much of it. Maybe they just saw humor in what I was doing. But once AJ realized that I wasn't joking, he called me immediately and said, "Dude, come on over. I got you." So that's how that panned out. Throughout the experience, I got to see people, living homeless, and I also got to see that there's a lot of comedians out here who are legitimately living out of their cars, who that's the way they did it from the start, so there's nothing special about what I did other than the fact that I made a point to try to document everything. We met Rusty Rutherford back on my Facebook timeline and Insta timeline if you go back and watch that. I met all sorts of different people, saw all sorts of things. Like I remember, the last day that I took a public shower, I left my soap on accident. I left this Suave 3-in-1, and this guy was homeless, was like, "Hey, you left that." And I was like, "Oh man, thank you so much." And he goes, he's looking at me, he's like, "You got the good stuff." And I was like, "What? You want it?" He goes, "Just a dabble." I said, "Take it." take it. He's like, thank you so much. I've been using the pink stuff in the sinks. You know, homelessness is a really, really big problem, specifically in Los Angeles. If you know, the population of Pensacola and Escambia County are about almost the exact equivalent of the homeless population in Los Angeles city limits and Los Angeles, the county. They're almost the exact equivalent. So you take Pensacola and you just take the whole population, just slam it into Los Angeles, and nobody has a place to live. And that's what it's like. Throughout the journey, we went to Skid Row, which is, it's hard to be there, hard to watch. But Venice is pretty rough. And, you know, the saddest part about the things I saw was, you know, when I go to take a shower, I could see, you know, fecal matter on the sides of buildings, on the sidewalks. Just by chance, when I was driving for rideshare, I saw a guy posted up defecating underneath an interstate with zero shame. You know, even how even dogs show a little shame, like zero shame, because it's just what it is out here. It's so expensive. So some people are like, you didn't have to be homeless. You didn't have to do that. Well, it was the financially responsible move to make, to not dive into something that was just going to suck my wallet dry. And, you know, it's not like I'm dead broke, but a lot of money barely goes a little way out here. So you have to figure out how to survive and not let it break you off and ruin you. And keep in mind that this is me doing this without alcohol. So my wallet isn't hurting. You know, there's not specific things like unnecessary things other than a joint here and there. But throughout this journey, you know, it was about 72 hours worth, if not a little longer. I got about 12 hours of real sleep, and it was not enough. I could feel myself slipping. My motor skills were kind of dropping. You can see me in Venice. I actually had some friends shadowing me in Venice because they knew that I wasn't right. And I wasn't right over in Venice. And homelessness is a really big problem in Venice too, to the point where you're stepping over fecal matter on the sidewalk and you're not sure if it is a dog or a human's. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that. But that's basically what's happened with this journey. AJ has been beyond helpful and is one of the coolest people I've met in this town. And I can't say thank you enough to everything he's done for me without blinking an eye. You know, there was 3 things I had in mind when I went into this, and it was to not complain, to stay positive, and not ask for anything. Those were the 3 things. You know, like I said on my way out of the house, I did this. You know, so, you know, you write your own will. But, you know, it's over. I still want to get some footage of maybe Hollywood Boulevard, maybe get some footage of New Orleans when I go. And I still want to create content, and it's been pretty awesome to see the following that this has developed. And I want to keep that going, you know, but I also want to keep it honest, you know. So that's the story of me going homeless. And if you're just tuning in, just scroll on back. It's basically from the beginning to the end of how it started and how it's wound up. Right now, the only real dilemma I have is trying to find a place to live, and I've got about 24 days to figure it out. I'm positive that things are going to work out with that. Any questions regarding the homelessness? It was a wild journey. I'm sure there's somebody asked if it increased my empathy. It increased my empathy a little bit, but when you're around it and you see it in Los Angeles the way it truly is, not the way it's sold to you, the empathy, if it's not already there, then there's probably something wrong with you. You know, it's so bad out here. It's really hard to look at. And it's crazy to think that a lot of people out there, their bank accounts are, you know, good enough to move to a different place and live comfortably and find a job and get things right. But at least from my experience, man, you give it 3 or 4 or 5 days out on the street, your sleep cycle is gone, your train of thought is ruined, and there's no balance. Oh, Patrick, I said earlier the sheer population of Pensacola and the population of Escambia County directly reflects Los Angeles, the city, and the counties. The homeless population in Los Angeles is the equivalent to the actual population of Pensacola and Escambia County. So it's absolutely different. I'll post something on my Instagram that I saw today. I saw some guys dressed as clowns juggling fruit, selling fruit and panhandling at the same time. Some people really get creative as far as how they're gonna make money. And I didn't worry about having my stuff stolen really. I had two vehicles. I had the rideshare vehicle and my personal vehicle. And AJ's actually helped me out with my personal vehicle too, which is insane because to fight the tickets out here, for those of you who don't know, parking enforcement is a big business out here, and it's actually contracted by Xerox because they can't print paper fast enough. It really is contracted by Xerox, and they have a rule where you're actually guilty until proven innocent. So you have to fight, and you have to fight hard to fight the tickets, and it's strategic that way. That way, you just give up and just pay it because it just seems easier that way. But all my stuff was either right on me or it was in my other vehicle in a remote location that nobody knew where it was. I just, I'd have to move the car every 72 hours to make sure there was no ticket. So I never really worried about anything being stolen. Kind of worried about my car getting hit, but at this point in time, I kind of wish the car had gotten hit. If there's no questions, I'll move on to the sobriety part. If you guys want to hear a little bit about the sobriety. Well, the worst fear was when I tried to do it in the car for a minute. My biggest fear happened immediately. Somebody walked up on me immediately, so I thought I was safe in the car, and I was absolutely wrong. You got to keep in mind that I did this with no insight. I didn't ask anybody how to do it. I just did it. And the first location I went to was absolutely wrong. But I learned immediately. And, I was a lifeguard for 6 years. So I thought to myself, well, why don't you drive at night and see if you can't get some rest on a guarded area right next to a lifeguard tower during the day. So that's how I got by. For the 12 hours of sleep that I got through the whole experience. As I sleep, I just kind of covered myself with a blanket to prevent sunburn and slept knowing that there were eyes on me potentially, that I could feel safe around in a lifeguarded area over there on the Pacific Coast Highway. But moving on from that, let's move on from that. You saw the post earlier about my weight. I'm down 75 pounds right now. Well, let's start with the sobriety because that's probably the first step in the process. So just about a year ago, I had started stepping back from alcohol. And those of you who know, not only was I a raging alcoholic, but I couldn't even get in front of a camera sober, much less perform or do anything else sober. And you wonder if you're running away from things, and you don't know it until you sober up and start to experience emotions from 6-7 years ago. And you're just like, why am I experiencing these? You don't even know it until it happens. My alcoholism started when my father died when I was 19 years old. I just dove straight into the bottle, and I had to learn a lot of hard lessons without my father. I've been a fairly too trusting to people, specifically in business, of course. And it's tough because that's the guy you look up to for advice, who's had the wisdom, who's had the years of work that he's put in to share his experience with you. And we were right on the cusp of probably sharing those experiences together, or at least, him giving me some insight on how he lived and how he was so successful. But, so I was on the bottle from 19, and I can't tell you the days that I was sober, other than the days that I was on antibiotics. I always respected the antibiotics whenever I was sick. But other than that, I stayed drunk. And it went from fun. It went from funny. It was fun and funny. And I had ladies. It was great. Everything was going fine. And then it wound up being ladies and Waffle House, ladies and Waffle House, then Waffle House, then Waffle House, then Waffle House. And then next thing you knew, I was 280 pounds. And I'll tell you what, it really, really sucked. Last time I was home, I threw away all my old clothes, and I kind of regret it now, but it's really gratifying it's probably the coolest way to spend money is on new clothes because you've lost so much weight. But looking down that road, I didn't know, I didn't see a skinny future. I didn't see myself skinny ever again. To the fact where I never saw myself, I didn't even see myself making it to 32 years old. I don't even know how to dress. Look at me. I have my top button buttoned. I don't know why. I don't even know how to dress. I don't know how to act. And up to this point, I'm trying to figure out how to live and just how to be a normal person in society, sober. But I noticed as I tried to kick alcohol, I would take 4 or 5 days off, and then I'd hop back in, and it would hurt me even worse, to the point where I got sick of it. So I had one night out, and it was really, really, really rough. I woke up, my car was home, my glasses were broken, and I said, "This is it. This is it. I can't. This is gonna kill me." And so I just put it down, and I reached out to my friend Jeremy Bullock. Shout out to you, Jeremy, if you're around, if you ever see this. But he had already lost the weight and been bigger than I was, and he's already down the sober road. So I reached out to him, and I already told you guys, he gave me the insight that, you know, there's 100 people out there who would never be surprised, wouldn't even bat an eye if you passed away due to the lifestyle that you're living, you know. And I reflected on that, and I realized he was right. So he offered up AA, as many people did, but I kind of took AA as motivation to keep the bottle away from me. I really just didn't want to go. It's one of those things where I realized and I identified that I couldn't control it. A lot of people can, but I don't have the ability. So as the weeks went on, guys, and take this to heart, please, the hardest thing for me with quitting alcohol was the social stigma behind it. It was like I joined a cult or something, and all I did was quit drinking. You know, people were weird. I don't know if I should drink this beer around you. Well, you know what? That hurt even worse, but ultimately I just kind of had to find a way to separate from those people and move on. The biggest thing I learned is I kept reaching out. I reached out for years, hoping somebody would do it with me, and I learned there's nobody going to do it but you. And you're going to have to brace up and do it on your own if you're going to do it. And to this day, there's no temptation. I have no urge whatsoever to go back to the bottle. Very, very, very few headaches. My wallet is fatter, and I haven't burnt any relationships during a blackout at midnight on some stupid ramble. Not to mention that I'm more professional. I can be taken seriously, you know, and that's paying dividends too. So once I kicked the alcohol, there's a few people out there that know that the next step was weight. So I went, you jump from vice to vice, but if you can try to wean off, you can. So I was also chewing tobacco, which is not cool, but it helped. It helped just, but it was hurting my mouth, and I got sick of that. So I kind of quit that cold turkey about 6 months down the road. I was still smoking marijuana, and tobacco, mixing that kind of got the job done for me as far as that went. But both of them were still vices, and they were still holding me back. So I kicked the tobacco, and I still do marijuana recreational from time to time, but I'm doing everything I can to not let that hold me back. That said, I will give it a little credit. I would like to say that it kind of gave me a little bit of strength to stay away from other things, but I'm definitely not going to advocate marijuana, but I do use it from time to time. It's legal out here, so I'm not ashamed of it. So when I moved out here to Los Angeles, you guys you guys may or may not know, but I lost my best friend in the middle of this process, and that's by far the biggest obstacle probably that I faced in my life. My father had 6 kids. I was the baby of 6 boys, and he was 63 years old when he passed away. I've got a brother that is legitimately old enough to be my father. But when you have a friend that you go to when you're having good times, when you go to when you're having hard times, you go to justify decisions you've made, and somebody who's just there, he sees you when you're down and you don't even realize it, and picks you up, and to have that just taken away hurts so bad. But what I took from him was I never saw anybody take a shot on the chin and keep pressing forward and staying positive the way he did. So I just took what he would want me to do, and that was stay positive, move forward, and just try to make something good of yourself every day. And I've really taken that to heart, and it's paid dividends, and it's also helped me kind of keep him in my memory. It kind of keeps him a part of me a little bit. He had such a positive impact on everything. And when he passed away, you have 2 ways you can go. You can either just wallow yourself in pity, or move on and try to make something better of your life and of the situations that are handed to you. So it actually ramped up my efforts to be a better person and improve myself and help take care of myself. So I moved out to Los Angeles, and my friend Bud Galloway introduced me to seltzers. Well, what I learned about seltzers is they fill you up, specifically LaCroix, although I don't think it's a very cool brand, but these are naturally flavored. These have zero anything in them, absolutely anything except carbonation. So what I could do is I could eat what I knew was a right portion, and then pound a seltzer, and I'd pound them throughout the day. They'd help keep me hydrated, but they also made me feel guilty about what I ate. For the past 4.5, 5 months, I've felt absolutely guilty for eating a chicken breast. It's something modest because of these seltzer waters, and I saw what they were doing. I call it the anti-beer because they don't taste that good, but if you consider the job that they're doing, a beer gets you drunk. This is making me lose weight, so I just stuck with it. And I throw in some flat water here and there, but ultimately these keep me feeling full. And it took 3 months. I didn't even realize it. 3 months into it, I realized that I dropped like 20 pounds. 4 months into it, 50, 60, now I'm at 75, and I haven't really put in any exercise whatsoever. Now, I will give credit probably to 5 or 6, 7 of those pounds over that 3 days last week. But that's basically how I've kicked the weight. It's really kind of a mindset. You just, if you give it 2 weeks, that awful food that you were eating, you don't crave it anymore. Soda, the thought of soda makes me sick. Real soda, like Coke. I was doing 2 or 3 of those a day. Just cut it right out. Now I couldn't dare go back to it. Probably made me throw up. And as well as the bad foods. Every now and again, you go out and you eat something that you want, but ultimately, when you overeat or you eat crappy food, it makes you feel bad. And if you step out of the box and you look at it, or you see people walking out of the Pizza Hut that are borderline deathbed, morbidly obese, walking out with a large pizza that they're going to eat to themselves, they're not happy, and they can barely breathe over their 4 chins. And I'm not taking a shot at fat people. I was just there, but when you look at outside of the box, it's simple math. You don't overeat, you feel better, you can keep your day going on, you don't have to take a nap. Everything, all these things kind of just hold you back. Pat, that's cool that it helps you to stop smoking. And I know that marijuana has helped a lot of people stop smoking. They say that tobacco is harder to quit than heroin. I don't know because I've never done heroin, but it was pretty tough. But what you learn about tobacco is it's hooking you on itself. You want another cigarette because of the side effects of having that last cigarette. Once you kick that, it's nothing. You know? So far, it looks like Patrick's the only one with any questions. Anybody else have any questions? We could talk about going homeless, the problem out here, what it's like in Los Angeles, what my journey's been like so far, the alcoholism or the weight loss. Any kind of questions, if there's anything I can do, anything I can answer for you guys, I'd love to. But ultimately, that's my story, and that's where I've come from the past year. It started with recognizing the fact that I couldn't control it, you know, and John, if you're just tuning in, I started with the story of being homeless, and we'll probably call it a day at 40 minutes. But basically, what I did was I drove rideshare at night, and I tried to get things done during the day as well as sleep during the day in a lifeguarded area, because it's hard to be messed with when you know there's eyes on you. So that's how I did that. But really got to see real quick was the lack of sleep. The lack of sleep was unbelievable, and that was just 3 days. You know, I'll go back. I'll try to go back out there and show you what goes on. There's people at almost every intersection just yelling at nothing, and you're not sure what's going on. It's almost like like the comedian's graveyard, where people just go and try to keep hashing out the bit that never worked to nobody at intersections. But you know, if you get as wiry as I got, with 12 hours of sleep and with over a course of 72, 78 hours, just imagine a week of it. These guys could go into poverty or into homelessness almost completely with it and just lose it within a week just because they don't feel safe where they're sleeping. REM sleep is so crucial. And so when you think about people going homeless while they're addicted to drugs, they're getting zero REM sleep. You know, I want to reiterate the fact that I went into this situation stone cold sober, and I would not have done it any other way. It would have been really bad had I done it that way. But I went in stone cold sober, you know, in complete control of everything that I was doing, and I still saw myself slipping at the end. And I'm so glad that AJ reached out his hand and decided to help me. But what's up, Joe? How you doing, man? I've told the whole story on here, guys. If you have any question about losing weight, trying to stay sober, you know, I'm not going to call myself sober. I call it alcohol free. But that was my problem. So if you guys want to reach out and ask any kind of questions, I'm here for you. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to want to need somebody just to talk to about it, to reason with specific feelings or emotions, or you feel like you're not making progress. Anything you want to talk about, I'm open to it. But if you have any questions or you want to see something, just hop back in the story. I covered everything from the story of why I went homeless, the story of how I was being homeless, the alcoholism and the weight loss. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks, Jareth. That's funny. AJ said that at one point in time. He said, "Man, the entertainment value, I kind of regret helping." You know, he meant that in jest, of course, but I get it. You know, I mean, all I did was just kind of sleep with a camera in my hand. Yep. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, I'm good. I'll be home on the 16th to about, I don't know, 24th or 25th. You want to say hey or go grab a soda water? I'm down. But thanks for tuning in. That's my story. I hope it can be a positive impact on somebody. If it only helps one person, it did its purpose. And thanks for tuning in for the journey. And I look forward to more. All right, guys, take care.